Part 111. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1101. Xianxia is a master of overcoming tribulations, and Zuyun doesn't know if he will learn what happened today from Fenggui's sword. Therefore, this is also a hidden danger. But what happened was that he might not be able to deal with Xianxia in a short period of time. He could only go to the Five Elements sect according to the original plan, find a way to sneak in, and then fuse the fragments together. But before that, he still needs to make some preparations. After running wildly for several hours, Zuyun arrived at the Realm of Five Elements section. However, he did not leave the mountain. Instead, he found an inconspicuous valley and entered the Immortal Mansion. It is easy to enter the Five Elements sect, but if you want to gain some status in the Five Elements sect and get in touch with that fragment, you need a stepping stone. What he prepared was the 5 spirit pills. Zuyun plunged into the alchemy room and began to refine the 5 spirit pills. His attainments in alchemy are also extraordinary. Over the years, he has basically refined the elixirs he needs by himself. Now that the world of Dazu has become different, and elixirs are beginning to grow, Zuyun will naturally become more interested. Under the leadership of Sangu, the monster beasts that originally belonged to the demon refining tower gradually developed their own intelligence and thoughts. In addition to practicing, they usually picked elixirs and transplanted them to plant near the ancestral tree. There is most of the soil that belongs to the medicine garden. After the elixir is planted in it, it will grow very well. However, at this time, the elixirs in Zuyun medicine garden were enough for him to refine several batches of 5 elixirs of various colors, and there was no need to go to the ancestral tree to get them. One day later, Zuyun already had more than 10 bottles of 5 spiritual pills. The quality of each bottle is different. 5 spirit pills are extremely rare even in the 5 Elements sect, so these 10 bottles are enough to be used. In addition, he also refined some other elixirs to prepare for emergencies. After doing all this, Zuyun came to Jian Mountain. Nujiao sat cross-legged on the top of the mountain. After noticing Zuyun approaching, she opened her eyes and smiled sweetly. "Master, when will you let me go for a walk?" Zuyun was stunned for a moment, and then said happily, "Have you mastered sword skills?" Nujiao nodded with a smile. Zuyun pondered for a moment, and couldn't help but think of Chen Tianxiao, and said, "It's not appropriate for the time being. Although your sword skills are great, you still don't have a sword in your hand. How about I refine a suitable spiritual sword for you and then you go out?" "That's fine," Nujiao's eyes flashed and she said, "but I have to think carefully about what kind of knife I should use." Zuyun happily agreed and no longer disturbed Nujiao, but looked at Hualong Pond. There was a faint red light in the pool water, which was the color of the dragon suppressing stone when it activated the dragon trap formation. The red light had a dragon-shaped outline, and Zuyun was amazed in his heart. This dragon transformation pool was too mysterious. It could actually transform the stone that had been warmed by the blood of the dragon demon emperor into a dragon. If the dragon demon emperor or Longwu were allowed to enter it, they would probably turn into real dragons, right? It's a pity that the real dragon is a sacred beast, but what he did was despicable to him. Shaking his head, Zuyun retracted his gaze and left the immortal mansion. At this time, the sky outside was slightly bright, and many monks were walking in the direction of Tianweishan, wearing rays of light. These monks, mainly in the elixir forming stage, saw Zuyun's extraordinary momentum and extremely young appearance. They all bowed and saluted and called out to them as seniors. Zuyun nodded slightly, but his eyes fell on the 5 Elements sect realm. This place is considered the edge of the 5 Elements section. The sect is not here, it is about 3,000 miles away. But as far as he knew, within the 5 Elements sect, monks without the 5 spiritual roots were not allowed to trespass. If you want to go to the outer world, you must take a detour. It seems that the changes in Tianwei have also affected the five elements section. Zhu Yun's heart condensed slightly and he stepped into the plane. Instantly, he felt an aura in the air that was completely different from the spiritual power of heaven and earth. Huh? Zhu Yun hesitated and was also surprised. Because the spiritual power contained in the air is somewhat imaginary with the power of chaos. Strangeness. Zhu Yun took a few steps and found that the situation was still the same. Normally, the spiritual power in the air is mixed, but these free spiritual powers have no independent consciousness. The composition of the spiritual power is also affected by the terrain. For example, the sea area is dominated by water spiritual power. In rocky places, earth spiritual power is mostly present, and in some rocky places, if there are metal veins, there is also a lot of gold spiritual power. Where there are volcanoes, fire spiritual power is extremely active. And in the plains, the vegetation is lush and full of vitality, which is the wood spiritual power. The rest of the derived spiritual power, such as the northern icefield, is dominated by ice spiritual power. If a strong wind blows, the wind spirit power will be relatively wild. However, wind spirit power is a relatively special kind of spiritual power. According to Zhu Yun's understanding at this time, all kinds of spiritual power can be turned into wind spirit power. In this plane of the five elements sect, the five spiritual powers are extremely balanced and stable. If there weren't so many monks, he would have liked to sit down and practice some qi right now, to feel the difference between these spiritual powers and the chaotic power in the void. It seems that the strength of the five elements sect, in addition to the five elements Chaos Sutra, is also related to these spiritual powers. Zhu Yun secretly guessed, and then looked at a lone pill-forming monk. Among the people passing by here, they were all in groups, but he was alone. "You, come here." Zhu Yun waved to him, and then threw out a pill. "I wonder what the senior's orders are." The male cultivator was shocked and hurriedly ran to Zhu Yun and asked respectfully. Zhu Yun casually took out a high-level essence-nourishing pill and said, "Take it." No reward for no merit, a trace of desire flashed in the male cultivator's eyes. He held the elixir in both hands but did not dare to put it away. He refused cautiously, as if the elixir was very hot. "I'll let you take it as you please. If I ask you something, just tell it truthfully." Zhu Yun waved his hand, interrupted the male cultivator and asked. "Yes, this junior will definitely tell you everything he knows." Seeing the male cultivator put away the elixir, Zhu Yun smiled slightly and then said, "Don't the five elements sect not allow people to enter their territory? Why do so many of you go to Tianwei?" The male cultivator was slightly startled, and then said quickly, "Senior must have just come out of seclusion." This was indeed the case before, but since the last accident on the immortal stage, the five elements sect suddenly closed its doors, and all the disciples and deacons of the five elements sect returned. Once inside the sect, if this were not the case, we would not dare to pass by. Close the mountain gate. Zhu Yun thought to himself that this must have something to do with Yayuan smashing the five elements Sanren to death. "That's right," the male cultivator said with a flash of excitement on his face, "this is just one of the reasons. We also heard that all the sect forces in the world and the monks above nascent soul were killed and injured. Except for those who can transcend tribulations, there is no one strong enough. So we want to go to the outer world to try our luck and see if we can find some treasures from heaven and earth. I'm waiting for the small sects and casual cultivators to stand up." Zhu Yun frowned. As soon as he came to the spirit world, he dealt with the major sects in Tianwei. It didn't take long before the issue of Xianxia Terrace came up, but he never paid attention to the situation in other places. When the male cultivator saw that Zhu Yun was so talkative, he seemed to be trying to please him, and said excitedly, "Senior, I don't know something. Not to mention the world, even the land of Zhuyu. Originally, the land of Zhuyu was occupied by the demonic sect. We, The righteous monks can't get in at all. Nowadays, many people from the same path are going to Juyu land, looking for the rare elixir. And during this period, many casual cultivators have become famous, attracting some sections massive solicitation. This is an unprecedented event. Oh! Zuyun raised his eyebrows and became interested. Since the Five Elements sect had closed the mountain gate, he was not in a hurry anymore. He pointed at the two stone piers in one place and said, "Sit down and talk to me in detail." "Okay, here's the pill." The male cultivator's eyes lit up. No matter how ignorant he was, he could still feel the extraordinary quality of the elixir from the essence-nourishing elixir that Zuyun had previously rewarded. This senior actually still had it? Isn't that much better than venturing to Tianwei? Although Tianweishan no longer has the influence of the sect's power, if there are more people entering, conflicts and disputes will inevitably occur. If I am alone and have no choice, how can I take such a big risk? "Senior, please." The male cultivator asked Zuyun to go over first, and he followed closely behind. After waiting for Zuyun to sit down, he squatted half squatting, not daring to sit with Zuyun at all. Zuyun feigned anger, "Sit if I ask you to. If you don't want to sit, then you will never sit down again in this life." Yes, what the senior taught me is that the junior is indeed ungrateful." The male cultivator was shaken and had no choice but to sit down, and then said, "The strong men who appear during these times are all nascent soul cultivators, and they come out of nowhere. They have no sect, but they are very powerful. Among the singles, the most famous one is Sword Phoenix. The strongest ones among them are a man and a woman. The male cultivator is silent and uses a sword, while the female cultivator can't see any spiritual weapons and uses spells. The two of them cooperated well, and they have killed many ungrateful people." Robber monk. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1102. Zuyun was full of interest and enjoyed listening. That's because, from the male cultivator's vivid description, he guessed that the male and female pairing would most likely be Mengwei and Daegu. Daegu usually talks a lot, but in front of Mengwei, he will restrain himself. How could Zuyun forget the friend who grew up together? Just like before, when the three of them were traveling together, Zuyun took the lead, and he and Ergu were not very good at talking nonsense. "Do you know where those two people are now?" Zuyun couldn't wait to meet them. The last time he returned to the East Mortal realm, he was in a hurry to go and return in a hurry. It seems that there is a new sect that has accepted them as elders. "What is their name?" "Zhenhai sect." The monk racked his brains and came up with a name. It's no wonder that he was there. During this period, sects were popping up like bamboo shoots after a rain. It was hard for him to even think about it. Zhenhai Zong. Zuyun memorized these three words in his mind, took out an essence-nourishing pill and rewarded it, and then asked, "Where is Zhenhai Zong?" In the southwest coastal area, their sect leader seems to be a casual cultivator in the late nascent soul stage. Also, a strong man like him, under the current circumstances, can indeed establish a sect and recruit many disciples. Moreover, there have been quite a few nascent soul stagers from the four mortal realms recently, and many seniors want to recruit them to prepare for the secret realm. Secret realm? What secret realm? Zuyun was stunned. While asking questions, he also looked at the endless stream of monks who continued to rush to Tianwei Tianzhong, and he vaguely knew in his heart. These monks are not only looking for treasures, but also presumably preparing for the secret realm, so that they can gain something in the secret realm. Only. Is there no movement in the Five Elements sect in this secret realm? The secret realm of ascension to immortality, although the male cultivator felt strange, he did not dare to ask. On the contrary, he was even more in awe of Zuyun. How many years must he have been immersed in cultivation before he didn't know about the secret realm of ascension to immortality? It's no wonder that his realm is so much higher than ours, and he didn't die in the accident at the immortal platform. The secret realm of ascension to immortality will be opened on Kunlun Peak in Tianweishan. Anyone who is a monk can enter it. In the secret realm, there are countless treasures of heaven and earth, and it is even said that there will be an immortal treasure. Immortal treasure? Zuyun opened his mouth. He wanted to say how could an immortal treasure appear in the lower world so easily, but when he thought about it, he also had an immortal treasure in his possession, so he simply swallowed his words and stopped asking questions. It seems that I also want to visit this secret realm of immortality. Kunlun Peak. He wrote down 3 more words. Zuyun smiled and said, "Do you know who that sword phoenix is?" Sword phoenix. The male cultivator organized the words in his mind and told them what he knew. Sword cultivators are not uncommon in the spiritual world, but they are not many. The spiritual world is full of spiritual energy. Even if the spiritual roots are poor, as long as you practice, you can at least cultivate past the foundation building stage. If you encounter some good opportunities, such as the 4 spiritual roots, cultivating to the core formation stage is nothing more than a matter of time. That's all. Therefore, as soon as Sword Phoenix's reputation came out, it spread quickly. Nowadays, among the casual cultivators, everyone knows that Jian Huang is a female sword cultivator, and when she uses the sword, she can also release flames that are very similar to phoenix fire. What's even more mysterious is that her sword is not a fire-attributed spiritual sword. This is also the case, so that people can be amazed and become famous far and wide. In addition, she also refused the recruitment of the peak of the late nascent soul. Regardless of coercion or inducement, the female cultivators refused. However, some sect leaders felt that they had lost face and wanted to use force. But I never thought that the other party was obviously weak in the small realm, but killing these nascent souls was like killing chickens. In this way, no one will have any unreasonable thoughts about it. What's even more mysterious is that this woman is holding a thin sword in her hand, but she is carrying a dark, thick sword behind her. It's interesting. Zuyun raised his eyebrows. He had had a lot of dealings with sword cultivators. Whether it was Daegu Ergu or Jiantianming Sun Qiniang, they all practiced swordsmanship. He even practiced the Wuji sword technique himself. Compared with talent, Kendo pays more attention to perseverance. Senior, do you want to ask where Sword Phoenix is? Seeing Zuyun's reaction, the male cultivator couldn't help but trembled, and there was a look of fear in his eyes. Yes, after all, Zuyun just asked where Jin Haizong was. Why, that Sword Phoenix can kill nascent soul, can it go to a higher level and kill me? Zuyun raised his eyebrows and smiled calmly. No, I don't dare. The male cultivator quickly said, it is rumored that the Sword Phoenix suddenly appeared from the land of Juyu, as if it was going to fight all the way to the outer world. Some people speculated that she wanted to go to the ancestral land of the Phoenix clan to cultivate the Phoenix essence and blood to refine the body behind her. That black sword. Oh! Zuyun was greatly surprised. He didn't know what the Phoenix clan's ancestral land was like, but if there was a realm like the Phoenix Queen, there would naturally be other realms. He didn't even dare to go there. She was a swordsman. That's a little too arrogant. Let's talk about other things. Zuyun took out an essence-nourishing pill and threw it over. He already regarded Jian Huang as a dead person in his heart. Since he was listening to it as a story, he naturally didn't need to pay too much attention. Others. The male cultivator thought for a moment and then said, it's still related to the sword. It's also a male sword cultivator with a female cultivator. However, they are relatively low-key and were recruited by a sect that refines weapons. Think about it, they have spiritual fire. It seems so, the male cultivator said quickly, That sect is called the weapon forging section. It is not a recent one. It has always existed in the spiritual world. They practice weapon refining, and they also rely on us to practice and make methods. Tools for a living. Zuyun couldn't help but think of Sword Valley. Among the Sword Valley, the strongest one has the Mahayana stage. But the life of the weapon refining sect outside the world is even more difficult. Perhaps the destruction of the immortal platform is not a bad thing for ordinary monks. After chatting with the monk for a while, Zuyun almost understood the recent events in the spiritual world. He left a few more pills and asked with a smile, "What's your last name?" The male cultivator was very excited and said quickly, "Senior, this junior's surname is Luo, one name per column." List. What a name. Zuyun laughed, and then quickly disappeared. Teleport. This is a watershed between the realm of forming the core and the realm after that. With an expression full of envy, Luo Lai murmured, "This senior is so easy to talk to. If all the sects and forces in Tianweishan are like this, how can we casual cultivators will life be so miserable? But it's pretty good now. Those sects have paid a huge price, so this senior can be at ease." Luo Lai happily put away the elixirs. With these elixirs, he no longer had to take risks in the outer world. He simply returned the same way, which made him a little more conspicuous among the monks. As for why Zuyun wrote down his name, it was actually just to form a good relationship. He originally had a good heart, but encountered evil all along his path to immortality, so he realized that only if he was strong enough could he do good deeds. But he is good and not stupid. In short, Zuyun has his own understanding of kindness. In this ordinary elixir forming period, not to mention giving advice, just these few elixirs may change Luo Lai's life. 5 Elements Sect, in front of the door. Zuyun hesitated for a moment, and finally decided not to go in for the time being. The 5 Elements Sect sealed the mountain gate and was not in a hurry. He wanted to see the male and female monks. If it was Daegu and Menguia, Zuyun would definitely place them properly and provide them with the best elixirs and cultivation resources. Now that he has a firm foothold in the spiritual world, this is nothing. Thinking of this, Zuyun was about to leave and go to the Jinhai sect on the southwest coast. But just as he was about to leave, a figure suddenly appeared in the 5 Elements sect. If it's an ordinary 5 Elements sect monk, then that's it. However, the person who came was a female cultivator with endless firepower all over her body. Xianxia. Zuyun turned around and saw her face clearly, and he was extremely surprised. Xianxia has a single-line fire spirit root, is extremely talented, and extremely powerful. But why did she come out of the 5 Elements sect? Moreover, she has also reached the nascent soul stage. Wishyun. Hearing Zuyun call her by name, Xianxia immediately recognized her, and then showed a strange smile. "I didn't expect to meet you in the spirit world. Then I will have to settle the grudges with you." Zuyun frowned and took a step back. Xianxia was not in the nascent soul stage, so he would not take it seriously at all. He was only afraid of the 5 Elements sect. He still needed to infiltrate the 5 Elements sect, and it was because he heard the news that the 5 Elements sect had closed the mountain that he came to the door to take a look. As a result, Xianxia recognized it. He was glad that he didn't go in with his original appearance, but he felt endless doubts because of Xianxia. Could it be that she also practiced the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra? Is this possible? Just when he was hesitating, a majestic firepower came towards his face. How dare Xianxia take action against him? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1103. Zuyun waved it away, and the flame disappeared. But who would have thought that Xianxia had already created a magic formula, and a mysterious golden light came straight to Zhu Yun's eyebrows. Soul method. Zhu Yun frowned slightly, and felt a power in this golden light that frightened his soul, but he used the divine eye technique immediately, and the golden light could not escape. Zhu Yun only slightly turning his head away, the golden light brushed against his ears and he hid. You were able to escape. Over there, Xianxia was also extremely surprised, with that arrogant look on his face. It seemed that it was extremely unbelievable that Zhu Yun could avoid it. Xianxia, Zhu Yun said calmly, I am in the transformation stage, so it is extremely easy to dodge your attack in the nascent soul stage. Humph, Xianxia snorted coldly, but showed disdain and said, it's not like I haven't killed anyone in the transformation stage. Zhu Yun was surprised, no wonder Xianxia dared to attack him, not out of ignorance, but out of fear. You may be able to kill me if you survive the transformation stage, but you may not be able to kill me. Zhu Yun also understood in his heart that if he had not used the divine eye technique, he would probably not be able to see through this invisible golden light with the strength of his soul alone, and he might really be hit by Xianxia. But he still couldn't understand. Xianxia also entered the immortal stage at that time. It was mysterious enough that she was not dead. Why did she enter the Five Elements sect and learn such a mysterious method? He looked at Xianxia steadily, his thoughts constantly surging, and Xianxia also pinched the magic formula again, and another golden light flashed. This. It's exactly the same as the fairy light on the immortal platform. Could it be that by chance, she absorbed the fairy power when the immortal platform collapsed, and thus had this good fortune? Zhu Yun suddenly woke up and was extremely lucky that he had the divine eye technique. Otherwise, if he still had the void-breaking spiritual eye technique, he would probably have to die here today. He frowned slightly, dodged Xianxia's attack again, and then said in a deep voice, Xianxia, for Feng Qinjiang's sake, I don't want to kill you. Be wise, you take your sunny path, and I'll cross my single plank bridge. It's not that Zhu Yun doesn't want to kill, Xianxia already has a grudge against him and possesses immortal light. If she reaches a higher level, it will be extremely difficult for him to deal with her. But this is the territory of the Five Elements sect. In the incident of Xianxian Terrace, the Five Elements sect only lost one Five Elements Sanren, but the monks of other realms were never lost. The important thing is that he still needs to sneak into the Five Elements sect and get the fragment. It is indeed inappropriate to kill Xianxia at this time. What a joke, Xianxia said with a sarcastic expression, think about how you insulted me in the East Mortal realm back then. If I hadn't swallowed my anger, I wouldn't be alive today. I finally got the chance to take revenge, how could I let you go? After saying that, Xianxia once again created a ray of fairy light and struck Zhu Yun. At the same time, she took out a grey-white bell in her arms with her other hand. The soul-catching bell. Zhu Yun was shocked. Although the chaos power he had cultivated was the prototype of immortal power, his soul was at most stronger than the ordinary god transformation stage. If Xianxia used immortal light to activate it, the consequences would be disastrous. Immediately, Zhu Yun felt the intention to leave and did not dare to stay here any longer, so he immediately teleported away. Clang clang clang. At the same time, Xianxia also quickly rang the bell. The sound is quiet, but it is extremely penetrating. When Zhu Yun escaped, he still did not forget to protect his soul, but he never thought that the ringing of the bell would have no lethality at all. It wasn't until several god transformation monks suddenly flew out of the Five Elements sect that Zhu Yun realized that he had guessed wrong. This is not a soul-catching bell, but a magic weapon to send messages to seek support. Damn it, what on earth did Xianxia go through to be able to summon the divine stage? Zhu Yun cursed secretly, gathered all his strength and fled towards the southwest. And those who were in the late stage of divine transformation, under Xianxia's orders, chased after him. Outside the mountain gate, only one person who was at the peak of the late stage of divine transformation was left, and he was extremely respectful to Xianxia. Sect Master, that sect in the transformation stage actually dares to offend the sect leader. Why don't I lead others to destroy their sect? If Zuyun were here, he would definitely be shocked again. Xianxia, a Yuanying stage with a single line of fire spirit roots, unexpectedly became the leader of the Five Elements sect. Of course, not only him, but also the entire spiritual world would probably cause an uproar if they knew this news. Xianxia looked majestic, and there was no expression on her beautiful face. She said lightly, "He is a monk from the East Mortal realm. He has no family or section. Go to the back mountain and call some elders of Liangsu." Sect Master, this guy in the God transformation stage was very puzzled and said, "That kid is only in the middle stage of God transformation. Will Elder Liangsu be overqualified?" Xianxia's face condensed and she said solemnly, "Do I still need to explain to you my actions?" Sect Master, forgive me. At this stage of divine transformation, I felt my heart tremble, and I quickly knelt down on the ground. "I'm going to call Wuxu's elders immediately." "Humph," Xianxia snorted coldly, "get out." "Yes, Sect Master, I am resigning." This stage of transformation into gods has been rolling and climbing, but in a moment, it has disappeared here and appeared in the back mountain. The sect leader has ordered that the three elders Wuxu, Tianxu, and Huaxu come out of the mountain. The voice came out in the distance, and soon three middle-aged male cultivators appeared in front of him. The three of them all looked strange. Wuxu stepped forward and said dissatisfiedly, "What does the sect master want to see us for? Now in this spiritual world, you people in the God transformation stage are enough to run rampant. If we let those in the void refining stage come out, if Yuan gets angry, the consequences will be disastrous." The God transformation stage laughed bitterly and said, "Elders, this is the order from the sect master." Tianxu said coldly, "Since Xianxia became the sect master, the hard days of our Five Elements sect are coming. I really don't know how he, with a single fire spiritual root, can attract the holy object to recognize the master. Alas, it's our fault that we only cared about cultivation before and didn't care about the affairs of the front hall of the section. We didn't strangle her in the cradle in advance. Now her soul method has the function of restraining the chaotic power in our bodies." The three void refining elders didn't look good. Since the Five Elements Wanderer was hammered to death by Yuan, the former sect master's decision to close the mountain was a very correct move. But who would have thought that he would make a stupid move step by step next? First, he brought back the dying Xianxia, and for some reason, he became her Taoist partner. This was originally a small matter, and the Five Elements sect did not have any mandatory regulations in this regard. What happened later was unknown. It was very sudden. The sect leader died suddenly. After the sudden death, Xianxia came to the back mountain with the sacred objects of the clan and announced that she was the current sect leader. At the beginning, these elders, from the stage of transformation to the stage of crossing the tribulation, ignored them. They just wanted to practice in peace and did not want to participate in the disputes in the spirit world. But who would have thought that more than half a month had passed, and Xianxia began to order them to do things. Originally, being the sect leader did not have much impact on them. This sect leader is in name only, whoever wants to be the leader can do it. But asking them to do things directly affects their practice. Now, who would agree? Unexpectedly, Xianxia actually attracted the fairy light to suppress their Yuan Shen, and an elder of Liangsu exploded into a ball of blood foam on the spot. The body will be dead and the body will be gone. Now, Xianxia completely shocked all the elders. In this way, the Five Elements sect, which was the dominant one, was controlled by Xianxia. The people of the Five Elements sect are now in a panic. They just want to practice desperately, either to escape from the Five Elements sect or to ascend to the fairyland as soon as possible. But who would have thought that this idea was also seen through by Xianxia, and she actually used the soul method to put a soul mark on every cultivator in the back mountain. As long as she had a thought, she would immediately wipe out the soul and become a walking corpse, without her own thoughts? Who would want to? But Xianxia, while being domineering, still left room for buffering. That is, to promise these cultivators that in the tribulation period, if they can trigger the heavenly tribulation, they can freely choose the time to ascend. But if they stay in the sect, they can do at most one thing for her a year. 2 things for the Mahayana period. 3 things for the fusion period. 4 things for the refining void period. Under such circumstances, these powerful people chose to accept it. It was just hard for the spiritualization stage to let her drive him. Outside the sect, 3 refining void elders stood respectfully in front of Xianxia. Over there is a male cultivator who has also practiced the 5 elements Chaos Sutra. Kill him, and bring all his things here. Xianxia gave an order, and the 3 refining void elders hurriedly followed. Xianxia turned around and looked at the late spiritualization stage peak who reported the news, "Come with me to the heaven beyond heaven." "Yes, sect master. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1104. In Xianxia's eyes, Zuyun seemed like a dead person. Let me ask, can a person in the middle stage of becoming a god escape from the pursuit of 3 people from the 5 elements sect who are in the virtual refining stage? Moreover, all under the premise of practicing the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra, it can be said that you know yourself and the enemy. Although you, Zuyun, have many methods, they all come from the techniques of this fairy world. But she didn't know that the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra practiced by Zuyun had already mutated. Zuyun ran as fast as he could, but no matter how fast he was, it was impossible to escape the pursuit of 3 people in the void refining stage. And with the digital god stage pursuing them first, the 3 Suliangsu elders who followed them could naturally find their targets easily. They just need to feel the breath of chaos force. What exactly has Xianxia experienced? Not only has his strength greatly increased, he has learned the mysterious soul method, and he has become the leader of the 5 elements sect. Zuyun's head ached when he thought of this. He looked back at the 5 late-stage peak gods who were chasing after him. He wanted to kill easily, but the problem was that it would be delayed. The key is that he also felt that there were 3 more huge auras 100 miles behind them. After leaving the sect realm, I met many monks again on the road, and they all went to Tianhuitian to hunt for treasures. Feeling the incomparable aura coming from the sky, they were all frightened and dispersed like birds and beasts, fleeing in all directions. For ordinary monks, entering the realm of the 5 elements sect is a capital offense. But suddenly, they also discovered that the flying 5 elements sect masters did not attack them. For a moment, these people's eyes flashed with light. Among the crowd, Luolai gritted his teeth and looked at the direction in which Zuyun disappeared. He recognized Zuyun. He will never forget the blessings the senior gave him in his life. There are several gods in the stage who can pursue their predecessors, and their momentum is even stronger. Even if he couldn't feel it, he could see it from the situation. He touched the porcelain bottle in his arms. All of them were filled with fine essence-nourishing elixirs. No, Senior is in such a catastrophic situation, I have to find a way to help him, although I am not strong enough. There are so many monks here, it seems that they also have ideas. Luolai racked his brains and finally came up with a wonderful idea. He stood there, took out an essence-nourishing pill from his arms, and pretended to be surprised and shouted, "Hey, why did a pill fall from the sky? Got the medicine." As he spoke, he quietly circulated his spiritual power, forcing the scent of the medicine to spread around at a faster speed. What? A pill fell from the sky. A monk who was closest to Luo Lai suddenly came over and saw Luo Lai holding an extremely fine essence-nourishing pill in his hand. That medicinal fragrance, that elixir pattern. Excellent quality. The seniors must have fought and broken the storage bag, so the elixir fell out. Seeing that many people noticed him, Luo Lai looked excited and ran wildly in the direction Zhu Yun escaped. After running for half a mile, he bent down again, reached out, and touched the ground, as if he had picked up something. In fact, he once again took out an essence-nourishing pill in his arms. Ha ha ha, you've made a lot of money. Such a good elixir, go to Lao Shi's heaven. At this time, he was still a little far away from everyone, but what he did next made most of the monks no longer doubt him. I saw Luo Lai making a dusting motion, and then threw the elixir into his mouth. Zhu Yun used a good elixir, and then used the elixir refined by Fen Tianyan. Needless to say, the effect was natural. The essence-nourishing elixir melted in the mouth and took effect immediately. An extremely pure power suddenly emerged from Luo Lai's body. Half a mile away, the monks felt it. Needless to say, the elixir is real. Thinking about it again, those powerful men before had no time to take care of them. If they catch up now, they can also grab the elixir. As soon as these people had their thoughts, Luo Lai took the lead and ran out again. Under the influence of the nourishing pill, he was far better than everyone else. He also deliberately took out a few pills and sprinkled them on two people in the direction he was running. Sighed. Sure enough. After he ran a few more miles, he heard laughter of surprise from behind. At first, there were still people who wanted to take advantage of the chaos, but these casual cultivators, who have been crawling around in the spiritual world for so many years, naturally have ways to deal with it. If they picked up a pill, they would swallow it immediately. Not even a dusting movement. For a time, the spiritual power of many monks increased greatly, and their pursuit speed became faster and faster, even surpassing Luo Lai. But the monks behind him were also worried that they would not be able to pick up the elixir if they chased too slowly, so they simply wanted to give up. But Luo Lai also figured out the psychology of these people, and still threw a few pills out on the roadside in an extremely subtle way. Now, all the monks finally went crazy. Pills are not something you can pick up just by running ahead. There are also some of us who run slowly. What is this comparing to? It's a fairy tale. Immediately, these monks who had originally ventured to Tianweishan chased in the direction of Zhu Yun. They were so crowded that they wanted to stick to the ground and pass by like sweeping a carpet. At the same time, as they fight like this, they will also encounter the monks who are going to Tianweishan behind them. Those casual cultivators will join in if they inquire a little bit. Although the speed of these monks cannot keep up with Zhu Yun and the others, they are better because there are more people, and the momentum is also condensed together, getting stronger and stronger. Until, several elders from the void refining stage passed by in the sky. Wuxu, why do these casual cultivators focus here? Tianxu asked with a puzzled look on his face. In fact, the people of the Five Elements sect knew that these casual cultivators were going to the outer heaven through the Five Elements sect's territory. But the problem is that the direction is wrong now. From what I see, those younger generations of the transformation stage who came first must have driven these people away along the way, right? Wuxu pondered for a moment and said, we all know that the sect master wants to go to the outer heaven. I think they are afraid that these blind things will offend the sect master. Then don't worry about them. Let's go there quickly. The sect master has strictly ordered us to kill the transformation stage. The elder who had been silent all the time also said in a muffled voice. Kongxiu, it's fortunate that we are far away from the section. If we are close, your weird tone will inevitably attract the sect master's punishment. Wuxu glanced at Kongxiu and said. Humph, I know it, so what? The worst case is death. Kongxiu turned his head and his eyes were a little evasive. The other two did not speak, and the three continued to move forward, ignoring the whereabouts of the cultivators below. They were late, and after some time, these cultivators did not pick up the elixir, and they thought that others had picked it up and did not dare to make a fuss. In this way, those flying in the sky and running on the ground all followed Zuyun's direction. At the same time, Zuyun also flew into a mountain range. Compared with this plane, the 5 elements of spiritual power in the mountains are not so stable. Zuyun pondered for a moment and felt that it was not a good idea to be chased like this. If he wanted to take action, this mountain range was the most suitable place for him to take action. After thinking about it, Zuyun plunged in without hesitation. You want to hide in my 5 elements sect's territory? A spiritualization stage cultivator sneered and said, for more people, form a formation with me. The 5 elements trapping formation will trap him in this mountain. I have received news that the 3 elders of the refining void realm are coming to help. The one who spoke was the oldest spiritualization stage cultivator, who was of the same generation as the original sect master, so his orders would certainly carry weight. 4 people quickly stood up from the crowd and followed him down. The rest of the cultivators floated in the air and swept the formation. During the process of falling, these 5 people had already circulated the chaotic power in their bodies and transformed it into the most refined spiritual power of each system. The 5-color light, arranged in order, looked like a circular magic weapon with 4 turns of flowing light from a distance, smashing towards Zuyun. Use people as a formation. Zuyun immediately felt the 5 extremely attached spiritual powers coming from behind, and they were mutually reinforcing and mutually restraining, connected from beginning to end. He looked behind and was only slightly surprised. It is not surprising to use people as the array. The operation of the array requires power to drive it. Spirit stones can be used, spirit beads can be used, and of course people can be used. But relatively speaking, using people as the center of the array to output power requires extremely high control. Zuyun saw a way to crack it at a glance. But he did not break it immediately, but looked slightly into the distance. These people in the God transformation stage set up the array so quickly, which shows that they are familiar with the cultivation of the array. If I remove one person, there will naturally be others to fill in, which will not solve my crisis at this time. I can only lead them deep into this mountain. Zuyun thought so in his heart, and then he accelerated his speed to land, and then used the power of chaos to drive the Changshengju and ran towards the depths of the mountain. Humph, still want to run? If you fight to the death now, while we haven't fully entered the formation state, you still have a chance. But if you choose to run, not only can you not escape, but it will also make our 5 elements trapped formation even stronger, and you will be powerless to resist. The face of the leader of the Huashen period flashed a sneer. Xianxia had specially reminded them that Zuyun had also practiced the 5 elements Chaos Sutra. In their opinion, Zuyun had only learned the skills of the 5 elements incarnation technique in the sutra at most, and there was no suitable means to deal with this 5 elements trapped formation. You know, this is a formation that was realized by the predecessors of a higher realm, and then let the cultivators of the 5 elements sect start learning from the nascent soul stage. The cultivators of the 5 elements sect can only go out of the mountain sect to experience after they have cultivated to the nascent soul stage, so they need this formation to kill enemies across levels, or to seek self-protection when encountering stronger cultivators. They are all in the Huashen stage, and Zuyun is also in the Huashen stage. In the same realm, in their opinion, Zuyun is just a lamb to be slaughtered. Not to mention, there are 3 elders of the refining void stage chasing after them. Now that the 5 elements sect is in charge of Xianxia, they don't seek to be successful, but to avoid mistakes. Since the sect master ordered to grind him to ashes, they naturally dare not return without success. Although, none of them knew what hatred or resentment Xianxia had with Zuyun. No one dared to say, no one dared to ask. As they gradually entered the forest, the few spiritualization stages left behind in the sky were blocked by the trees and could no longer see them. "That kid is quite good at running," one of them said lightly. "If I wasn't afraid that our spiritual consciousness would affect the operation of their formation, I would have wanted to see the kid's miserable condition." "What's so good to see?" "No matter how much you see, the sect master won't say a good word. In short, just get the job done, that's it." Another cultivator curled his lips and said on the side. "That's not the case," another cultivator laughed again. "We are only in the spiritualization stage. Unlike those seniors, we only need to do a few things a year. Even if we want to escape, it's not that easy. Therefore, we can only please the sect master to survive better in the 5 elements sect and get more 5 spirit pills. The spiritual world has changed, and so has our 5 elements sect. You are right, so don't say it. This is a truth that everyone understands, but no one feels good when it is mentioned. Originally, he could practice with peace of mind, but now he has become a helper. All this is because of Xianxia." At this time, Zuyun had run nearly 100 miles in the mountains. He found a valley again, stopped suddenly, and then turned around. "Haha, that kid has given up." The leading spiritualization stage was extremely excited, and this 5 elements confinement formation actually covered the sky and the sun, like a strange phenomenon in the world. In his opinion, Zuyun could not escape this net, so he gave up resistance. But how could he know that Zuyun knew the 5 elements and the way of formation better than them? He smiled indifferently and stretched out his finger with disdain. He used his finger as a pen and the chaotic force in his body as ink. "Draw the heavenly talisman. Break." The word break took shape and turned into a talisman, shooting towards the place where the light of the 5 elements confinement array gathered. The power of the 5 elements is about balance. And Zuyun wanted to break this balance. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1105. Bang. There was a muffled sound, and the 5 gods in the formation came fiercely and very quickly. Similarly, the castration of the runes was also very fast. Under this situation, the 5 people had no time to react, and the talisman had already penetrated into the center of the 5 elements trap formation. It's like a stone thrown into a calm lake. The 5-color stream of light was immediately destroyed. It started from the center and set off 5-color ripples towards the 5 people. In an instant, the balance was broken. Not only was the 5 elements trap formation broken, but these 5 people had to deal with the spiritual powers of different attributes from the other 4 people. "No, the array is broken." The 5 people screamed in shock. Not only did they escape from their position, they also stopped transmitting spiritual power. But these spiritual powers lost control and became even more frenzied. But in the blink of an eye, the surging spiritual powers had already hit them. Boom! 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 After several loud noises, the 5 people were immediately engulfed by these spiritual powers. There was a loud noise, the mountains collapsed and the ground cracked, and thousands of trees fell down. But Zuyun knew that after the destruction of this trapped formation with a human eye, it would be entangled with the spiritual power of the 5 elements, but it would not be able to cause the same vibrations as the self-destruction formation. He focused his eyes and stretched out his hand to make a fist. He blasted one of them. Blue Dragon Fist. The dragon roared, and with Zuyun as the center, a green dragon seemed to be rushing into the sky. Hold head high. Huge chaos force circulated in the air, and before the smoke and dust dissipated, it had already smashed the target into pieces. The smell of death and blood quietly floated out, stimulating the sense of smell of the other 4 people, but what made them smell was the smell of incomparable fear. This kid can actually kill someone in an instant. Fear turned into panic. If they were to fight alone, none of them would be afraid of Zuyun. However, they originally wanted to do it safely, so they only stepped forward with 5 people, and they would consume the opponent to death. However, Zuyun broke the formation, and they were trapped by the formation's force. Damn it! A sound of annoyance came from the smoke, but it was already too late. Zuyun used Qing Long Fist, but the chaos orb the size of an egg was consumed by more than half. How could he be polite? He immediately punched again. Blue Dragon Fist. As the 4 Divine Beast Fist that Zuyun learned first, Zuyun used it very easily. It was effective in one move, and of course he would use it again. Only 4 of the 5 people are left. The last green dragon dispersed, and another green dragon came. This is Chaos Fist? No, this is not Chaos Fist, this is more powerful than Chaos Fist. Feeling the familiar chaotic power in their fists, these monks almost admitted their mistake. The Qing Long Fist is of course a Chaos Fist, but unfortunately, it is not the Chaos Fist in the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra, but the Chaos Fist hidden by the 5 elements Xianxia who created this technique. What they have learned is only the incomplete 24 ways of boxing. Naturally, they have never seen these 4 boxing techniques. In fact, Chaos Fist is indeed 28, corresponding to the power of 28 stars. One of the laws of the 28 constellations is to belong to the 4 images. One image guards one side, and one side has 7 stars. The corresponding Divine Beast Fist guarding any side is equivalent to combining the power of the 6 stars it belongs to. Based on their normal practice of the Chaos Sutra, it would be impossible for them to realize this incomplete 4 Divine Beast Fist, but Zuyun was different. The 4 Divine Beasts are stronger, and the chaos power they control is even more immortal. However, Zuyun had an accident while practicing the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra. He has been using the power of void chaos as his source of power. The immortal mansion is the space outside the immortal emperor's body, and naturally belongs to the parallel world of the immortal realm. The chaotic power in it is naturally the immortal power. It's just that the immortal power is free and has no owner, so it is weaker. In addition, the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra is actually a modified immortal method. Once it encounters immortal power, it is equivalent to a simple immortal world technique. So of course, as long as Zuyun has the opportunity, he can follow the rules and realize the 4 Divine Beast Fists. The chaos power that he commanded was still chaos power, but it was completely different from the chaos power in the lower realm. Just like Zuyun uses the Divine Eye technique, he still needs to purify the chaos power in his body, and only 1 of 10,000 can use the Divine Eye technique. This is because the Divine Eye technique is also a real immortal method and requires real immortal power to be effective. On the contrary, the art of breaking the void spiritual eyes has nothing to do with it. Therefore, only when Zuyun's Chaos Fist is at the same level as the opponent can he smash them into pieces with 1 punch. And all along, the characteristics displayed by the Chaos Force, killing enemies across levels, are even more so. Of course, the premise is that he can hit the opponent head-on. No matter how strong Zuyun is, he is still a monk in the lower realm and is restricted by the heavenly laws of the lower realm. However, chaos power is fairy power after all. Even if it is not pure fairy power, it cannot be completely restricted by heaven. Zuyun killed another person with this second punch. His eyes narrowed slightly, and he blasted at another figure unceremoniously. 3 punches of Qing Long Fist, killing 3 people. The other 2 people finally came to their senses. They emerged from the dust and smoke and fled wildly into the distance. But Zuyun, how could he let them go? Incarnation of gold, incarnation of fire. Zuyun groaned, casually summoning 2 avatars from his body, and rushed towards a god incarnation stage who fled deep into the forest, while he chased after the other person. As the avatar chased away, Zuyun concentrated his attention and rushed over. But he was a little surprised. The Thunder Spirit Pearl was clearly in his hand, so why did he hold it after the golden incarnation went out? Could it be that the Thunder Spirit Pearl was in the hands of the Golden Incarnation before he closed the Incarnation? Now that he released the Incarnation again, the Thunder Spirit Pearl was equivalent to returning to his hands. Zuyun shook his head and continued to concentrate his mind. This was not a big problem. At the moment, he still couldn't let anyone escape. Although the Azure Dragon Fist was strong, if all the Incarnation stage outside came to help, it might not be so smooth. He was able to kill a Incarnation stage with one punch. In addition to the reason that he broke the 5 elements trap formation, it was more because of the surprise, plus the backlash of those spiritual powers. Otherwise, he could only kill 2 people on the spot. Based on the principle of killing more enemies, the less trouble, Zuyun chased him frantically. But the opponent's speed was not weaker than his. Under the intention of survival, Zuyun even felt that he was getting farther and farther away. No, if he keeps running like this, I won't be able to catch him. Although Zuyun was running for his life, he kept remembering the way he came. At this time, the other party also fled back along the original road. If he ran for another half an hour, he might be able to return to the forest and meet those cultivators head-on. After chasing for a while, Zuyun suddenly reacted, "Why am I so entangled in using the 4 Divine Beasts Fist? There are always ways to slow him down." Thinking of this, he suddenly laughed. Black cat or white cat, as long as it can catch mice, it is a good cat. With all kinds of magical powers, it is naturally a good move to kill the other party at this time. The purpose of using the Azure Dragon Fist before was to sneak attack, but now there is no need for sneak attack at all, just come openly. Zuyun thought about it and thought of a way. In the same realm, his normal means can kill or injure him. In terms of scope, isn't the situation at this time the best use of the talisman? Gathering Heavenly Thunder Talisman. Zuyun stopped and began to use his fingers as pens to draw a talisman in the air. This is the talisman he learned from the Heavenly Talisman fragments. Although it is a fragment, the talisman is mysterious and boundless. With Zuyun's current realm, although he can't kill the enemy with one move, what about 10 talismans or 100 talismans? A talisman took shape and turned into lightning and rushed towards the sky. Boom! A muffled thunder sounded in the sky. Zuyun did not stop and continued to draw the gathering Heavenly Thunder Talisman. This talisman was once one of his strongest means. Zuyun also studied hard for a long time. Now he has mastered it. In one breath, he can draw 10. After a few breaths, the sky was already covered with dark clouds. Several lightning snakes came out of the dark clouds and fell on the head of the God transformation stage. But Zuyun is still drawing. A lightning snake is not a big threat to the God transformation stage. He can resist or hide. What kind of magic is this that can trigger the sky thunder? It's not mentioned in the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra. It seems that the kid couldn't catch up, so he used this magic formula. The God transformation stage felt the power of the thunder snake and breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that Zuyun was at his wit's end and would use such a weak thunder formula. He knew that Zuyun was far away, so he waved his hand and scattered a lightning bolt, and a little bit of numbness came from his hand. But he didn't care at all, but was complacent. Is this kid's ability just this? Could it be that he doesn't know that the skills in the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra are the strongest? Maybe, that kid's strange dragon fist worked, so he came up with another trick. The God transformation stage thought so, and another thunder fell from the sky. He waved his hand again, and the feeling of paralysis increased, but he couldn't help but look back at Zuyun, and saw him standing there drawing a talisman, and was also slightly stunned. Spiritual talisman. Just as he was surprised, there was another lightning column. But when he waved his hand to disperse the lightning column, Zuyun drew 10. Because every time the sky thunder talisman was formed, there would be a lightning rushing to the sky. He didn't count, but he felt that Zuyun had drawn at least 7 or 8 at this moment. He felt a sense of uneasiness in his heart, and the lightning column struck again. One after another. The paralysis brought by each lightning was very weak, but the number was large, and it slowly accumulated. When this spirit transformation period found that his hand seemed a little out of control, the sky had already darkened. The dark clouds covered the sky and the sun, and it was unknown how thick they were, but there was a constant lightning rushing from Zuyun's side and drilling into it. At the same time, the thunder and lightning that came down had already made him know where to hide. No, I'm hit. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1106. Gather sand to form a tower. A little adds up to a lot. Water droplets, stone penetration. When there are enough heaven-gathering thunder talismans, they will pile up on the opponent's head, getting thicker and thicker, and more thunder snakes will jump back and forth among them. At this time, it was like the sky was falling in the sky, and the thunder shook, like a thunderous snake cave, with snakes emerging from time to time, and then bombarding them down. During this stage of transformation, my heart was filled with fear. Each lightning strike caused almost no damage, but the paralysis it caused was layer upon layer. Originally, it was just the palm of my hand. Gradually, at some point, the entire arm became numb. Then, there was his body. By the time he wanted to escape, the thunder clouds in the sky were already like a dragnet, and wherever he looked, there was darkness. No, not quite dark. There are also purple thunder snakes, which make this place even more eerie. It's like an inverted mass grave filled with will-o'-the-wisps. How could this happen? How could this happen? Finally, he panicked. Zuyun was still drawing razor non-stop. Jushin Leifu has very little information about him. If possible, Zuyun who is 3 days and 3 nights would not be much. Less than half an hour passed. Finally, in this stage of transformation, he was completely paralyzed, unable to move, and even unable to control the spiritual power in his body, so he fell from the sky. Bang! He fell heavily to the ground, but the sound he made was covered by the thunder. Zuyun then stopped drawing the talisman and slowly flew over, landing in front of him. Zuyun originally wanted to kill this transformed god before he died, but then he thought about it. It was not easy to capture someone alive. Although Xianxia was only at the nascent soul stage, he felt that it was extremely difficult to deal with him. Moreover, there is the 5 Elements sect as the backing. If you want to destroy it, you must kill her first. The most important thing is that he has to sneak into the 5 Elements sect. Zuyun pondered for a moment, then reached out and slapped his lower abdomen. The Danshan is completely destroyed and the spiritual power is dissipated. After 1,000 years of hard work during this divine transformation period, in the end, he was even worse than a mortal. No, no. Finally, he felt something strange in his body, and his spiritual power faded, making him worse than dead. It's a pity that everything is too late. He wants to die now, but he can't. Zuyun obviously wanted to get some information from him. The others are dead, but you can survive longer than them. Be wise and I'll give you a way to survive. Zuyun snorted coldly, pulled him up from the air, and then flew into the mountains again. Other side. Under the joint pursuit of the 2 incarnations, the god transformation stage had nowhere to go and was stopped. Attacked from both sides, he finally died under the Chaos Fist, with no bones left. Tell me why Xianxia became the leader of your 5 Elements sect. Answer all my questions and I will take you out of here and settle you down so that you can live the rest of your life as a mortal. According to what he saw, this stage of transformation into gods would last for at least several hundred years. If you just settle down for a while and stop thinking about cultivating immortality, you can spend the rest of your time without any worries. Moreover, after surviving a small catastrophe in the stage of becoming a god, even if the spiritual power is no longer present, the physical body is still strong enough to live safely among mortals, reproduce and thrive, and maybe even branch out. It's not that Zuyun doesn't want to kill them all. It's that he doesn't have to do this anymore. To settle this matter by yourself, you have to go to Zhenhaizong. In the southwest, far away from here, people who want to come to the Five Elements sect will not go out to find him. You will really let me go and settle down with me? Hearing Zuyun mention this again, his expression was filled with disbelief during this stage of transformation. After practicing for so long, he has seen enough of all kinds of dangers in the spiritual world. What Zuyun did was obviously not something that could be done in this realm. Just treat this as a deal, Zuyun said impatiently. If you are willing, then answer my question. If you are not willing, then of course I don't have to spare your life. Okay, I say. There was a gleam in his eyes at this stage of transformation, and he did not ask Zuyun to swear any oath of heaven. Faced with the absolute gap in strength, he had no capital to make demands. Having said that, the worst outcome is death. But at least he should be able to choose the least painful way to die. This request is not excessive. Xianxia was picked up by the sect master from outside, but not long after, the sect master died violently. Xianxia declared himself the sect master. As soon as these words came out, Zuyun couldn't help frowning and said, "How did the sect master die?" Also, he declared himself to be the sect master. Will you elders who are in retreat and have higher realms agree? You know, Xianxia is only in the nascent soul stage. Fellow Taoist, I don't know, Huashankai sighed and said, we don't know how the sect master died, because Xianxia, as his Taoist companion, completely concealed the matter, and even where he was buried, we don't know. The reason why the other elders did not protest is because Xianxia has mastered a soul method, which has a suppressive effect on us monks with 5 elements of spiritual roots, let alone us who are in the God transformation stage. Even the tribulation elders who are in seclusion in the back mountain don't dare to confront him head-on. During this stage of transformation, Xianxia made an agreement with those powerful elders once, and Zuyun couldn't calm down for a long time. He already knew that it must be the soul method he encountered. That golden light is like fairy light. Before, he had some suspicions, thinking it was just a similar light. But now that I heard that she couldn't even get through the tribulation period, it was confirmed without a doubt. But where did she learn this soul method? Could it be that the Xianxia platform was smashed by Yayuan and she had a chance to get it? Zuyun was completely puzzled, but he had already faced the matter seriously. If he met Xianxia again, he would definitely not show up rashly. Because even the period of transcending tribulation was used by him. Even if he agrees to only do one thing a year, Xianxia is extremely wealthy and will definitely do something to save his life. Fortunately, Xianxia only knew that she had practiced the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra, but she didn't know that her 5 elements of Chaos Sutra was different. He pondered for a moment and then asked, where does Xianxia want to go? She said she was going to Tianyi to do some work. Recently, the secret realm of ascension to immortality has been opened. Xianxia wants to make a breakthrough in the realm, so she has to go there to experience it, and then she can do something in the secret realm. Zuyun frowned even more when he heard about the secret realm of Xianxia again. The ascending immortal platform has almost destroyed all the monks above nascent soul in the spiritual world, so this immortal ascending secret realm. Could it be that just like the Xianxia platform, it was also a conspiracy set up by a powerful person in the immortal world? Compared with the immortal ascension platform, the immortal ascension secret realm does not have any requirements, and any monk can enter it. It seems to be no different from an ordinary secret realm. They are all about picking heavenly materials and earthly treasures, and looking for opportunities for skills. But there is no limit to the realm. There is no doubt that there will be a Shura field inside. Moreover, he also knew that there was a treasure in the secret realm of ascending to immortality, which might be the key to ascending to immortality. Naturally, there will be those secluded tribulation periods, and you will also break into them. Call. Zuyun took a long breath and said, "Okay, I will keep my word and let you live. I will take you out of here and place you in the barren mountains. I think, with your physique, you will definitely be able to survive. You can still live in peace for a few more years. The premise is that you stop thinking about cultivating immortality. Although he still has hundreds of years of life left, if he wants to increase his lifespan, he must practice from scratch and reach the realm of refining the void. But hundreds of years are not enough. So it is wise to just be immortal." There was a hint of loneliness in the eyes of this god transformation stage, but obviously this was the best result. At this time, Zuyun's two incarnations also came back. After thinking about it, Zuyun felt that it was quite difficult for him to lead him, so he simply summoned Mujiajia and prepared to let Mujiajia take him to find a place. But just as he was leaving, this god transformation stage suddenly spoke and said, "Fellow Taoist, have you practiced the 5 elements transformation technique? Do you have 5 spirit beads?" "How?" Zuyun narrowed his eyes and asked. "According to our ancestors, it is best not to practice the 5 elements incarnation technique. Even if you have the 5 spirit pearls, it is not appropriate." Thinking that Zuyun would keep his promise, he also advised him bluntly during this stage of transformation, saying, "The ancestors said that from the 5 elements Chaos Sutra, the 5 elements incarnation technique can make the cultivation progress faster on the surface, but in fact, this technique has always been about stability, but it suddenly changed. I think something went wrong and it must be a demon. I don't know the reason. Since Taoist friends can have 3 incarnations, I think they can also practice water incarnations and earth incarnations. It's ready. Yes, I have fully practiced the 5 elements incarnation technique." Zuyun didn't say that he not only practiced it completely, but also practiced it twice. "Hey," the transformation stage sighed and said, "there's nothing more to say. In short, Taoist friends can do what they want." "Thank you for reminding me." Zuyun also said thanks casually, nodded, and asked, "What do you call fellow Taoist? We are not acquainted with each other. Although I ruined your path to immortality, I will restore your innocence for hundreds of years. I'm Tu Gong, but fellow Taoist, don't worry, Tu will keep his name anonymous." Zuyun clasped his fists and said, "Friend Tu, see you later." After being polite, Zuyun asked Mu Incarnation to take him away. It was not until the two of them disappeared that he recovered. The reaction in his heart was that the 5 elements Sanren guessed that the 5 incarnations merged into one. If he had the intention, if you have a demon, it is very likely that you will be possessed by the inner demon, and the same situation as yourself will happen. But this cannot be confirmed. All in all, at least based on the current situation, Zuyun will not let the 5 incarnations merge together for the time being to practice the second stage of the 5 elements incarnation technique. 4 of the 5 died, and I also got the information I needed. The important thing is, if I join the 5 elements sect again, I can go back as Tu Gong. If there is a chance, just kill Xianxia directly." Zuyun's eyes flashed with light, and when he was about to leave, 3 boundless and terrifying auras followed. Void refining period. Zuyun quickly held his breath, not even daring to take back the 2 incarnations, and just lay quietly on the ground. He was afraid that if he made the slightest move, he would be discovered immediately. Because of this, there are 3 breaths. But 2 of them seemed familiar to him. After thinking about it carefully, he thought that the void refining cultivators of the five elements sect that he had met were the same ones he had met along with the Zhangdao Venerable at the Wild Sea. As soon as he rolled his eyes, he had a calculation in his mind. If we have to deal with it, we might be able to kill one or two in a sneak attack in the name of the disciples of the Master of Dirty Dao. Thinking of this, he was relieved a lot. And these three people in the void refining stage discovered that the thunder clouds here were caused by people, so they rushed here in a hurry. Their attention was not on the people. Not only did they not find the wooden incarnation taking people away, but they also didn't pay attention to the breathless Zuyun. What they didn't even know was that Zuyun was already plotting against them. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1107. At first I thought someone was going through the heavenly tribulation, but upon closer inspection, I saw that the power of the sky thunder and the thunder tribulation were different. Xianxia felt it carefully and discovered the difference. The majestic momentum caused by Zuyun's heaven-gathering thunder talisman before looked like he was going through a catastrophe from a distance, which was why they did not dare to come directly. Although they were strong in the void refining stage, they still had no confidence in facing the thunder tribulation. Instead, they waited until the thunder dispersed and saw that there was no fairy light coming down, then they came over to take a look. It is indeed not a catastrophe. Even these thunder powers look familiar. Wuxu also said that when they practice the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra, they must learn the thunder escape technique. Naturally, they also practice the thunder spirit power. These heaven-gathering thunder talismans were indeed talismans drawn by Zuyun with his thunder power, but they did not know it. Perhaps no one in the entire Yellow Star could recognize the heaven-gathering thunder talisman. No matter how they thought about such a method, they would never imagine that it was drawn by Zuyun. Kong Kong frowned and said, "The boy the sect master asked us to chase before also practice the 5 elements Chaos Sutra. This thunder spirit power is so familiar. Could it be the work of the God-transforming boy?" This sentence revealed the key. Wuxu and Xianxia both nodded and said, "It is very possible that that boy has not been practicing in the sect like us, and it is not impossible to learn some mysterious magical powers in the mortal world. Indeed, I heard from several disciples who were guarding the gods outside the mountain that there were 5 people who formed the 5 elements trap formation and came here. I guess it was because that kid couldn't break the trapping formation, so he tried to break it with such powerful means. Use this formation to escape." Sara began to look around, still not paying attention to the ground. Wuxu said, "It's just that the scene is a bit bluffing. This thunder spirit power is huge, but its power is not very good." Indeed, Xianxia believed deeply. It was precisely through the superposition of the paralysis attribute that the heaven-gathering thunder talisman caused Zuyun to be unable to move, thus destroying his realm in one fell swoop. But, having said this, Xianxia released his spiritual consciousness and checked the surrounding situation. Now, Zuyun has nothing to hide. He frowned and did not say hello to the other 2 people. The terrifying pressure came towards Zuyun and the 2 avatars. At the same time, Xianxia also teleported and immediately appeared in front of Zuyun. "Boy, is that you?" The moment he saw Zuyun, Xianxia was slightly startled, and the next moment, Wuxu also arrived. "2 seniors, stay safe and sound." Zuyun looked familiar and said hello, but he still secretly glanced at the void left in the air where the active skimming formation was, and felt a secret joy in his heart. Last time, he didn't see anything empty, but it could be seen from this man's expression that he was extremely rational and calm. "Boy, why are you here if you don't follow Dirty Senior?" Xianxia took back his pressure slightly, nodded slightly, and said, "If the 5 elements sand people were still there, they would not need to give face to the Zhangdao master. They would just kill Zuyun, and the Zhangdao master would not dare to come. It's a pity that the ancestor is dead." But they didn't know that the Zhangdao master was actually dead. My master went to do something, so he asked me to wait for him here. I just saw the battle between 6 people. I was afraid of being affected, so I hid all my breath. When Zuyun discovered these 3 people, he had already thought of his words. Wuxu asked, "You saw my sect disciple fighting with one of them here, isn't it?" Zuyun smiled and said, "The 5 disciples of Gazong are really powerful." The formations were colorful and formed a big circle. They were not only beautiful, but also more powerful. The mid-stage god transformation disciple who was forced to escape was in a state of embarrassment. Later, I don't know what kind of magic technique that kid used, but countless divine thunder fell from the sky to break the formation. However, he also spent a lot of money, and finally used an escape technique to escape. Escape technique? What escape technique is it? After hearing that the person they were chasing ran away, Tianxu immediately asked, and in his heart, he already believed it. This is basically the same situation as they judged, and there are no corpses here, so there is no other possibility except to escape. Zuyun was also happy in his heart. Fortunately, he killed 3 people with 3 punches before and then chased 2 gong here. Otherwise, the smell of blood there would definitely not be able to hide from these 3 people in the void refining stage. The escape technique seems to be. Zuyun rolled his eyes and said, "It seems to be from the thunder system. When that person uses the escape technique, his body will turn into an inconspicuous thunder light, which is extremely fast. 5 of your Taoist friends from Gazong also used it? I chased after him with almost the same escaping skills, otherwise I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Senior, I'd like to ask, is that person in the middle stage of transformation into a god a traitor to your sect?" "Why do you say that?" Tianxu asked with narrowed eyes. "Because they all use the same escape technique." Zuyun looked like it was natural, spread his hands and said. "Humph," Wuxu snorted coldly. "The fact that a traitor has appeared in a sect will be ridiculed by others in the spiritual world, especially the 5 elements section being so overbearing will lead to scandal. If word spreads, the sect leader will be dissatisfied and suffer. It could only be them. Not to mention, the person they are chasing is not a traitor at all. Boy, don't talk nonsense, this is none of your business. Can you see clearly where they fled to?" Zuyun deliberately shuddered. He heard Tianxu's dissatisfaction. In fact, he also wanted to divert his attention. He hurriedly said, "They went west, they all went west." "Very good," Tianxu stood up and sang the red face, "if Senior Zhang comes back, tell me. I am doing things in the 5 elements section, please forgive me if I disturb you." After that, Tianxu flashed and appeared beside Kongxiu, wanting to talk to him about the situation. But before he could say anything, a huge breath of chaotic power came from below. It was Zuyun who took action. Blue Dragon Fist. Speaking of the 4 divine beast fists, Zuyun used the Blue Dragon Fist the most, so it was naturally the best. This punch was unexpected, and at such a close distance, before Wuxu could react, the dragon head that came out of the fist had already swallowed Wuxu in one mouthful. Even though he was in the god transformation stage, facing such a powerful immortal fist, it was too late to resist. With a scream, Wuxu's body was annihilated into powder. Zuyun's realm was insufficient, but his chaos power was purer than theirs, and in terms of level, it was closer to immortal power. This was also the main reason why he could kill a powerful enemy by 1 level. The dragon roared, the mountains shook, and the valleys that had been ravaged by the Jushin Leifu were filled with dust again. The incomparable aura exuded by this huge chaos azure dragon shocked Tianxu and Kongxiu who were in the air. Zuyun's sudden move had killed a Liangxu period, how could they not guess that Zuyun was the one they were chasing? Moreover, this terrifying chaos power made them feel something, which was no less than that in their bodies, and even had the possibility of surpassing it. "Tianxu, do it." Kongxiu was the calmest, and was the first to come to his senses, and with a backhand palm, he fell from the sky. It was also condensed by the power of chaos, like a mountain pressing down on Zhu Yun. I'll dodge. When Zhu Yun punched, he had already put away the two incarnations, and his figure also fled away. The chaos power in his body was circling wildly, and the lotus pod was glowing with a fiery red light. Lotus fire. Zhu Yun was slightly stunned, and then quickly regained his mind. Now was not the time to study the changes in his body. He knew that although he was fast, he was not faster than the refining void stage. Otherwise, he would not have sneaked up and killed Wuxu first. Because even if he got away with it at this time, if they found that several other people in the god transformation stage were dead, then Zhu Yun's lie would be self-defeating. Then, he would never be able to escape again. Even if he hid in the day-glazed mirror, so what? With the full search of the refining void stage, the day-glazed mirror could only fall into their hands. There was a fragment of the Five Elements sect, so there would naturally be accidents. Zhu Yun didn't want to repeat the same mistake. If he hadn't met Nujiao by accident, he might have been trapped in the fragments forever and strangled by the void chaos force. I have to kill one more person before I can turn around. Zhu Yun's eyes condensed, seemingly running away in panic, but in fact he was thinking about when to kill a surprise attack. If the two chased him, he would definitely die. But if he killed one more person, it would be much easier to deal with him. Even if he couldn't kill the other party, he could still escape. As long as he left the mountain, he could transform into Tu Gong's appearance and look for an opportunity to return to the Five Elements sect. But in a moment, Tianxu and Kongxu were not far away from him. Boy, die. Kongxu didn't make a move, but Tianxu used his magical powers. Like Kongxu before, it was also a mountain of chaos force, which appeared out of thin air and pressed down on him. I think this is also a technique from the Five Elements Chaos Sutra, and it can be practiced by those in the void refining stage. Zhu Yun said in his heart, and suddenly 4 incarnations appeared. 5 Elements Incarnation Technique. The 2 void refining stages exclaimed, and the 4 incarnations rushed into the void. At this time, Zhu Yun also punched the Chaos Mountain. Suanwu Fist. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1108. Suanwu is a giant tortoise with infinite power. To deal with this mountain of chaos, Suanwu Fist is the most suitable method. I saw that chaos power was condensed on Zhu Yun's fist. At the same time, chaos power turned into a giant basalt turtle. The turtle head roared, turned around, and held it with its back armor. Chaos Mountain. Boom. There was a loud roar, and the color of the sky changed. The turbulent surge of spiritual power spread to the surrounding areas. The rocks here were also shattered, and the rolling mountains were flattened. Suzaku Fist. Zhu Yun punched again with his backhand, and with a shrill roar, endless red flames rose from Zhu Yun's hands. Taking advantage of Tianxu's shock, he had already fluttered away. What kind of skill is this? Tianxu's liver and gallbladder are about to burst, and the speed of Zuck is far worse than that of Qinglong. He controls the Chaos Mountain, trying to crush the black tortoise, and crush Zhu Yun into a pulp in one go. But he never thought that the Suanwu was not as simple as he thought. Until the old strength is gone, new strength is hard to be born. Even if he is in the void refining stage, he must not violate the supreme principle of heaven. The bird fire filled the sky, burning Tianxu into ashes. When the body dies and the Tao disappears, the soul is completely destroyed. Damn it! Such a change happened in just a moment. Kong also smashed the wandering water incarnation with a palm and turned it into a water spirit bead. Before he could take action against the other avatar, he saw this scene. His eyes seemed to be filled with excitement. Get angry. He was extremely sure that Zuyun was also practicing the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra, but why was he so strong in his practice? This is impossible. But seeing with his own eyes, the impossible has become possible. How can he dare to stay here now? Compared with his 2 fallen companions, he remained sane, and that's why he didn't die first. Before finding out the details of Zuyun, Kong just wanted to keep a certain safe distance from Zuyun. This guy, damn it. But it's not that easy to kill. The natural vigilance made the void no longer kill the other incarnations, and retreated into the distance in a flash. How could Zuyun let him escape? The soul in the void refining stage is powerful. Even if he uses the heaven-changing talisman and turns into a painted form, as long as the void is still in the 5 elements sect, he will still be at risk of being recognized. His eyes narrowed and he punched again. White Tiger Fist. In the roaring mountain forest, a big grey tiger jumped out from above the fist and walked quickly through the air, treating the void as prey. He had seen Zuyun use the first 3 punches one after another. Although the image of the 4th punch was different, Kong still felt the same punching energy on it. He dared not deal with it, but he dodged again and ran away. But Bai Huquan's body was strong and strong, as if it had its own wisdom. It locked the empty position on its own. As soon as the figure appeared, Bai Hu had already raised its huge right palm and slapped him on the head. Get out of my way. Kong slapped him with a backhand. Endless chaos power, with a huge aura, struck together with the tiger palm. This is chaos palm. Zuyun snorted in his heart. How could he let Kong escape? If before he used the white tiger fist, he had directly attacked me, I am afraid that I would be the only one who could escape at this time. But being overly cautious made Void lose the best opportunity. White Tiger's original attack missed, and the power of chaos began to fade away. Kong's palm directly knocked White Tiger away. But because of this, he also lost 1/10 of his breath. White Tiger Fist. Zuyun was not polite and punched again. Another white tiger rushed towards me. Kong was extremely frightened. Such a powerful move could even kill someone in the void refining stage. Logically speaking, such consumption is extremely powerful. Just like the original Chaos Palm, it will drain all the chaos power from the body, so that it can explode with powerful strength. It's like they can only use a few more palms after they have reached the stage of spiritual transformation. But I have never seen this type of boxing technique before, so why did this kid use so many punches during his divine transformation stage? Could it be that the chaos power that could be stored in this boy's body exceeded their imagination? The reason why Kong didn't run away and stayed here was because he thought that Zuyun would definitely use up all his chaos power. No matter how mysterious his moves were, it would be difficult for a clever woman to make a meal without straw. But this result? Totally unreasonable. The spiritual power of a god transformation stage will be more than that of a virtual refining stage. Who can believe it? He doesn't know that God is unfair, but this is so unfair. In desperation, Kong could only dodge again. Just like before, he waited for the white tiger to attack for the second time before he used the chaos fist to scatter the white tiger. 2 consecutive blows made him somewhat understand the characteristics of the 4 divine beast fists. Although these 4 punches are powerful, the fact that they are stronger when they first appear shows that his soul is still in the normal stage of divine transformation. Kong finally felt relieved, but he was still cautious. But Zuyun's punches still made him a little confused. If I learn this boxing technique. Zuyun used the white tiger fist twice in succession without any effect, so he knew that it was difficult to deal with the void, and more than half of the chaos power was consumed. The 5 spiritual root monks who practice the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra originally have more spiritual power than ordinary monks. In addition, the opponent's realm is also high, so Zuyun didn't want to take risks for a while. If that's the case, then use some other methods. Zuyun made a quick decision and decided to change Dafa. The other party was about to leave, but he was obviously convinced that he would be at his mercy when the chaos power was exhausted. But when will Zuyun gain more experience? Will it be as he wishes? He used the white tiger fist again, and took advantage of this opportunity to let one of the incarnations take back the fire spirit pearl and melt it back into his body. Xianxia did the same thing and destroyed it again, and gradually sneered in his heart, obviously thinking that Zuyun didn't have many tricks left. After dealing with 3 punches, he had almost figured out how much chaos power the white tiger fist consumed. According to his guess, Zuyun would only need a few more punches before chaos power would be insufficient. Thinking of this, Xianxia felt that he had a sure win, so he was not in a hurry to make a move. He just sneered at Zuyun as he blasted out the white tiger fist again. This was the 4th punch. Xianxia was at ease, but he didn't know that Zuyun's purpose was exactly this. As long as you are used to dealing with the white tiger fist, I can surprise you later. However, he also knew the situation he was facing. It was the consumption of chaos power, which was exactly the same as Xianxia guessed. After the 5th punch, Zuyun had 2 more beads in his left and right hands. In his left hand, there was the fire spirit orb left by the shattered fire incarnation. In his right hand, there was the thunder spirit orb that had been in the hands of the golden incarnation. Originally, Zuyun wanted to use the heavenly talisman to assist him, such as break, trap and fix. But the fire spirit orb suddenly reminded him of how he had used the spirit orb before. In the spirit orb, spiritual power of corresponding attributes could be stored, just like another Danshan, allowing him to store and take it as he pleased. Of course, the fire spirit orb could not be used now. But there was also the thunder spirit orb. The important thing was that the thunder spiritual power in the thunder spirit orb was the real heavenly tribulation. However, while thinking, the void blasted the white tiger apart again, and Zuyun threw another punch, wondering if it was feasible. He didn't know if he could control the power of the heavenly thunder in the thunder spirit orb. Although, before using the golden incarnation to hold the thunder spirit orb to absorb the heavenly thunder power of the dragon demon emperor during the tribulation, he had already refined the thunder spirit orb for his own use. But Zuyun was afraid of the terrifying power of the sky thunder, even if it was just the aftermath. Give it a try. Wealth and honor are sought in danger, and death is the worst. Zuyun took a deep breath and blasted out the white tiger fist again. His original body and 4 incarnations were here. Even if he died, his wooden incarnation would take 2 gong away from here. In other words, he still had a life. Let's die, otherwise there will be endless troubles. Zuyun's eyes flashed with determination, and he penetrated his soul into the thunder spirit pearl. However, he did not dare to trigger the power of the sky thunder, but opened a hole in the thunder spirit pearl. This hole was also facing the direction of the void. Boom. Boom boom. Boom boom boom. As soon as the hole was opened, without blinking, the sky changed color, and dark clouds seemed to appear out of thin air. As soon as the void blasted the white tiger away, he felt an extremely terrifying aura locked on him. This is... Xianxia dared not speak, just the aura had frightened him to death, and he turned around and wanted to escape. But the thunder of the heavenly tribulation, even if it was just the aftermath, was the strongest 9th one. Boom. Xianxia still had half of his body left in the same place, and the thunder in the thunder spirit pearl had been blasted out. This was the heavenly tribulation that had already descended. Of course it would not fall from the sky, and the vast dark clouds were actually more like a false show of strength. Or, in other words, this was part of the heavenly tribulation of the dragon demon emperor. Because Xianxia died more miserably than the previous 2 in the refining void stage. How could he, who was in the refining void stage, resist the thunder tribulation of the crossing tribulation stage? If there was reincarnation, the previous 2 could still reincarnate, but he was completely wiped out by the heavenly Dao and died under the thunder of the tribulation. Cultivating immortals is going against the will of heaven. If you die in heaven, will heaven let you reincarnate again? The thunder spirit power of a full thunder spirit pearl was poured out at this moment. In less than a breath of time, the thunder spirit pearl was completely empty. Zuyun was dumbfounded when he felt the thunder spirit pearl like a dead pearl. Not only strong, but also fast enough. Huh. Zuyun exhaled a breath of turbid air. This was unexpectedly smooth. But just when he wanted to fall from the sky, the dark clouds suddenly sprinkled thousands of golden lights. The golden light shone, like golden lines, and more like the tranquility after the storm. Zuyun was slightly stunned, and suddenly seemed to remember something, and his face changed drastically. If the guess is correct, this is the fairy light. When the fairy light descends, the person who shines on it will forge his body into a fairy, and then the heaven will open the fairy gate and send him out of the lower world to the fairy world. This is an opportunity to prove the way and ascend. But Zuyun felt that this was not in line with common sense. Even if he forged his body, his realm was only the god transformation stage. Even if he went to the fairy world, he was afraid that his foundation was not stable, and he was very likely to die tragically in the fairy world. Yuan also told him that the fairy land is not as beautiful as imagined. Go first, if it's not my fairy light, I won't take it. Zuyun turned and left, but he didn't expect a sudden change. The fairy light could not shine on the person who was in the position of tribulation, so it naturally shot towards Zuyun next to him. Zuyun's face changed again. It's not me who is in the position of tribulation, don't shine on me. But no matter how fast he was, how could he be faster than the light? Just when he thought he was going to be forced to ascend, the Dao glass mirror suddenly burst into light. And the fairy light was also attracted by this light, and quickly condensed into a beam, shooting straight into the mirror on his chest. It took a full incense stick of time. The fairy light dissipated, and Zuyun also touched his calm chest with a blank face. The dark clouds dispersed, and the sky was boundless. He still didn't know what happened. Until then, countless monks flying on swords appeared in the east. Seeing Zuyun floating in the air, they put away their magic tools and fell down. Meet the immortal, they said in unison, extremely pious. It was those who originally wanted to go to the outer world, but were finally listed here. And before them, there were several people in the God transforming stage. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1109. Zuyun looked a little alert. He knew that these people in the God transformation stage had been chasing him. However, affected by the fairy light, these people in the God transformation stage had already crouched down on the ground and did not dare to look up. Of course, those in the core formation stage were even worse. In addition to Luolai. At this time, he was shocked. Not surprisingly, he also regarded Zuyun as an immortal. Their feelings may be false. But the fairy light cannot be false. That mysterious golden light made them feel enlightened. The bottleneck was ready to move and could be broken at any time. With such signs, who else could it be except the immortal? Zuyun frowned slightly when he saw this scene, but he had to say that this was the best result. Although he had the ability to kill these people in the God transformation stage. But the gain was not worth the loss. Because he had used several moves of Chaos Fist in succession, Zuyun's Chaos Force was not much, and under the influence of the fairy light, his Chaos Lotus was also moving, which made him unwilling to fight. But if these people are sent away casually, it is inevitable that someone with ulterior motives will pay attention, especially the people of the Five Elements sect. I learned from Tu Gong that the cultivators below the level of God transformation dare not disobey Xianxia's orders. Their realm is still a little low. If they cannot report back, they will most likely die when they return. Zuyun knows Xianxia and knows that he can do such a thing. After some calculations in his mind, Zuyun pretended to be mysterious, suppressed his voice, but revealed a hint of excitement and said, "Today I have transcended the tribulation and ascended to the avenue. You fellow Taoists are here, which means it is fate. In this case, I will give you some extra pills from the spiritual world." After that, he took out the pills in the ring, and dozens of bottles of pills were sprinkled. This scene made these cultivators crazy. But reason overcame their greed, and no one dared to move. This is exactly what Zuyun wanted. He smiled and continued, "Everyone, see you later. I hope to see you again in the fairyland someday." This was Zuyun's polite words, but to these cultivators, it was undoubtedly a blessing from the great senior. In addition to the pills all over the ground, to be honest, they wished Zuyun would leave at this moment. After seeing that their minds and attention were almost all on the pills, Zuyun landed quietly, and then gathered the chaotic power, and ran away with the longevity technique in the distance. The reason why he didn't use teleportation or the thunder escape technique was that he was sensed by those in the God transformation stage. In that case, it would be a small matter if these pills were wasted, and he would still be hunted down by the God transformation stage. For a long time, those cultivators realized that Zuyun had disappeared, and then they frantically scrambled for the pills on the ground. Several people in the God transformation stage, whose strength far exceeded that of ordinary casual cultivators, took away most of the pills, which caused dissatisfaction among the people. In the past, they would not dare to even fart. But now, it is completely different. You Five Elements sect should not bully others by taking advantage of your power. This is the elixir given to us by the Immortals. Luo Li's mind was full of blood, and he stood up to accuse. Thinking of the conversation with Zuyun, his tone was as warm as the spring breeze. He felt that he could not let these people in the spiritualization stage ruin the opportunity that Zuyun sprinkled for a group of casual cultivators. Everything is difficult at the beginning. With Luo Li's beginning, several casual cultivators also shouted boldly, "That's right, this is given to us by the Immortals. If you grab more, it will be enough." "That's right, don't you worry that the Immortals will find out about this and come down to destroy your Five Elements sect. Yes, the elixir that everyone has been taken by your Five Elements sect, which ruins the Immortals' business." Hearing that these people in the Jindan stage dared to talk to them like this, these people in the godly stage looked at each other in surprise. Not to mention that they are the Five Elements sect, in any other place, how can a Jindan stage dare to talk like this? Yuanying can easily kill them, not to mention the God transformation stage. Forget it, a God transformation stage stopped his companion who wanted to take action and whispered, "We don't know whether the Immortals have ascended or not." They are right. If we anger the Immortals, it will not be as simple as our death. Hearing this, the God transformation stage restrained themselves. At the same time, they remembered that they had important things to do. After glaring at these casual cultivators, they continued to go deep into the mountains to look for their companions. Unfortunately, they could only find a few corpses at most. "Daiyu, thank you for taking the lead and speaking for us casual cultivators." A bearded man, who was a man of temperament, stood up very generously and bowed to Luo Li. Luo Li responded with a smile, saying, "Didn't Daiyu speak out too?" He saw clearly that he was the first person and the bearded man was the second person. "Ha ha ha," another person laughed, "actually, if we independent cultivators unite, we can be a great force. I heard that the Tianweixian sects all suffered heavy losses, so they closed their mountains and went into seclusion, and the Five Elements sect no longer cares about this matter. Not to mention, many sects have recently emerged to recruit disciples. I have something to say, What do you think? Everyone looked at him. This was the third person who spoke for them at the peak of the late Jindan stage. However, at this time, the spiritual light on his body was flowing, and there were signs of a breakthrough. Is he going to break through the Yuanying stage? There was envy in their eyes. Daiyu, please speak. Luo Lai clasped his fists, and the bearded man did the same. We, the casual cultivators, are struggling in this spiritual world, like those rootless duckweeds. In order to seek that glimmer of immortality, how often have we not risked our lives? I think back then, when we went to Tianweishan, we had to bypass the 5 elements section. Even if we enter Tianweishan, we have to be careful about the sect forces and some demon cultivators inside. It's a pity that we don't have an orthodox cultivation method. No matter how talented we are, we can't stand up to each other. But it's also something that everyone can bully. These words struck the hearts of these casual cultivators, causing them to nod their heads repeatedly. Some cultivators with keen minds also guessed what this person would say next. Today we all saw the immortal light with our own eyes, and it gathered here. Perhaps it was the will of heaven under heaven. And we all received gifts from the immortals. These pills, more or less, but I have to say that you all can feel that the medicinal power contained in the elixir is extremely pure, and it can help you greatly increase your strength, and it is no problem to break through a realm. The spiritual world is in turmoil. Those old sects, or the demon sects in the 9 Netherlands, the seniors above nascent soul and under the tribulation all died in the immortal ascension platform. The tribulation master has no regard for worldly affairs. All they want to do is conquer the heavens and prepare for the tribulation, so the strongest of these forces is only at the nascent soul stage. And there are more than 100 of us here, all of whom are in the elixir formation stage, and there are quite a few who have reached the peak of the later stage. If we are the founders of the sect, we may be able to gain a firm foothold in this spiritual world. Hearing this, Luo Lai's eyes suddenly shone, he raised his hands in approval, and said, if it weren't for the immortals, we wouldn't have such an opportunity. These words once again aroused the resonance of the other casual cultivators, and everyone responded one after another. That's right, we will establish the sect. The spiritual world is in chaos, which means our opportunity has come. Indeed, I've had enough of being a casual cultivator, and I've had enough of bending over for a spiritual stone. Create a mountain and establish a faction. Create a mountain and establish a faction. Create a mountain and establish a faction. Soon, thousands of words condensed into these 4 words, which continued to echo in the mountains. After a full stick of incense, these people stopped and focused their eyes on the 3 people in Luo Li. The big man with the beard smiled heartily, and his voice was filled with spiritual power, and then said, in my opinion, this fellow Taoist should be the first sect leader of our sect, just because he dares to stand in front of senior transformation god of the 5 elements section. Open your mouth. Fellow Taoist, you are not bad either. Below, several monks also responded in unison. That fellow Taoist is also suitable. There are also people who support the third person who spoke last. Luo Lai and others all looked at each other and expressed humility. This position of sect leader is easy to take, but difficult to hold. It's hard to say it, but it's easy to do it. None of them had experience in this area, and no one dared to be the first to do it. If you do well, you will be respected by your disciples. If you don't act well, maybe today next year will be your death anniversary. Just as the 3 of them were staring at each other, the rest of the casual cultivators reached a consensus. Who said that only one sect master can do it? No matter what, we have 3 sect masters with equal power. When it comes to major sect decisions, the 3 of you will make the decision through consultation. Among the crowd, these words suddenly came out, and the 3 people's eyes lit up. If so, wouldn't that just solve the problem? There are benefits, let's enjoy it together. If there are any bad decisions, they can also bear them together. Judging from the fact that the other two people can stand up and criticize those in the transformation stage, it can be seen that the three of them have the same temperament, and maybe they can think of going together sometimes. It couldn't be better. Two fellow Taoists, what do you think? Luo Lai said proactively. Thank you for your love, fellow Taoists. The big man with the beard was no longer polite, and said with cupped fists to the other monks. Ha ha ha, then I will become the sect leader. The third person also laughed. Luo Lai smiled slightly and said, since we have decided to establish a sect, should we also think about the name of the sect? It's no need to think about it, the third person laughed again and said, we are attracted by the immortal light, then we will become the Immortal Light Sect, how about it? What a great name! Ha ha ha, starting from today, we are members of the Xianxia sect. Yes, Immortal Light Sect, Immortal Light Sect, we are all monks who have seen immortal light. Father, mother, no sect accepted my son back then, but now 400 years have passed, and my son is also a member of the sect. These monks were extremely excited. At this moment, Luo Lai suddenly made a gesture to silence everyone. Suddenly, the venue immediately became quiet. I'll list it below. I am trusted by you and become one of the three sect leaders. But there is one thing I must say first. After glancing at the two people next to him, Luo Lai continued, actually, before coming here, Luo had a conversation with the Immortal. The Immortal asked Luo for some information, and after inquiring, he gave him a few pills. This shows that the Immortals have guidance from somewhere. According to Luo's opinion, our Xianxia sect should regard the Immortal as the ancestor of the sect, open an ancestral temple, build a golden body, and receive the incense of the Xianxia sect. Agree. 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 This has Luo Liang's selfish motives, and it is also a good thing for the other monks. Just imagine, if the other sects heard that a new sect like the Xianxia sect had an immortal who had just ascended to the immortal world as its ancestor, they would be a little wary. Among the supernatural forces in the outer world, which one of them does not have a channel from the fairy world to the spirit world, and send down some resources that are helpful for their cultivation? Although, their self-proclaimed ancestors may not necessarily send down resources. But at least, in the short term, it will also make other forces think more about fighting with them. In this way, Zuyun has more disciples for no reason. At this time, he hid in the fairy mansion early, frowning and watching the changes in the fairy mansion. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1110. There is no doubt that this is the work of the immortal light. In the immortal mansion, golden light was everywhere, as if the sun was rising, and the thousands of golden rays shone on everything in the immortal mansion. In the medicine garden, all the immortal medicines were silent, not sleeping, but carefully feeling the power of the immortal light. Compared to the chaotic power floating in the void, these immortal lights are purer and have a greater effect on them. On the top of Xianxia, a graceful figure was also looking up at the sky. Although there was also a black void above, Zuyun knew that Nujiao was also feeling the golden light like those immortal medicines. He was a little puzzled. Nujiao was a demon cultivator. Logically, this immortal light was useless to her, right? But on second thought, since Nujiao had practiced the divine eye technique, it meant that she was just like Menghui back then, who escaped from the demon path and became a cultivator who practiced spiritual power by practicing the spirit fire symbiosis technique. After thinking for a while, Zuyun did not disturb him. He walked to the middle of Jianshan Mountain and turned to the sword pond. In the sword pond, countless sword powers were floating, which were stronger than usual, more like boiling water on a stove. And in the rolling of the sword power, there was a faint golden light flashing. Zuyun knew that this was also affected by the fairy light. Is the fairy light after this heavenly tribulation so strong? Zuyun secretly smacked his lips. When the dragon demon emperor was undergoing the tribulation, he heard the other party say like crazy that as long as he could survive the heavenly tribulation, even if he only had one breath left, he would be fully recovered when the fairy light came to the world and baptized him. It can be seen that the fairy light is indeed very strong. This fairy light should be different from pure fairy power. Zuyun said in his heart, leaving the sword pond, going around to the other side of Xianxia, and came to the dragon transformation pond. I saw a red dragon lying quietly on the surface of the dragon transformation pond. Obviously, this is the dragon suppression stone transformed. At this time, the red dragon showed an extremely enjoyable expression on his face, and golden light occasionally flashed on the huge, round, and solid dragon scales. You have caught up with the right time. Zuyun was happy in his heart. The dragon stone could be what it is today because he made the right choice. In the face of the dragon demon king, the dragon stone still chose himself. So, choice is greater than effort? All of this. If it hadn't met me, perhaps the dragon stone would still be in the Dongsheng realm of the mortal realm, an inconspicuous stone in the ancestral land of the dragon clan. Even if he had more resentment, it would be impossible to achieve the dragon body at this time. I don't know if he has become a real dragon. Seeing that he showed no signs of waking up, Zuyun didn't disturb him, and secretly said in his heart, "Since you are red, I will call you Xiaohong." Then, Zuyun went down the stream of Jianshan and came to the medicine garden again. In addition to those immortal medicines, the spiritual medicines transplanted from the great universe world that Zuyun planted in the medicine garden also underwent earth-shaking changes. Of course, originally they were just ordinary spiritual medicines, at most they were older, and the spiritual power in the great universe was more pure and rich, so they were growing better. But at this time, these spiritual medicines actually showed signs of developing spiritual intelligence. Found that Zuyun was looking at them, these spiritual medicines slowly shook their stems, leaves and branches, and it was unknown whether they were trying to please or beg for mercy. Since you have shown spiritual intelligence, then live here in peace. I will not take you to make pills. Zuyun smiled and said this. Suddenly, these spiritual medicines shook more violently. Rustling. After looking at almost all of the immortal mansion, Zuyun set his sights on the small courtyard. Since there is fairy light in the immortal mansion, I wonder if there is in the great universe. Zuyun was excited and nervous. Fairy light can bring such a big change to the immortal mansion. If there is also in the great universe, it is also a great thing. He took a deep breath and entered the small courtyard. In an instant, he appeared in the universe. Such a rich spiritual power. As soon as his figure appeared, Zuyun felt the changes in the universe. The universe has no sun and moon, but it is divided into day and night. However, at night, stars have appeared in the sky. That was because Zuyun had touched the fur of the 28 constellations. It was dark at this time, and he was surprised to find that the starlight in the night sky became much brighter. This also allowed him to see the connection between the other 24 constellations more clearly. Practicing Chaos Fist made Zuyun know the 24 constellations. And after realizing the 4 Divine Beast Fist, the 20 constellations were supplemented into 28 constellations, and he learned about the strength of the constellation law from the formation fairy, which made Zuyun feel deeply. Later, the void appeared in the universe. He looked in all directions. Those stars were connected, and he saw the azure dragon, vermilion bird, white tiger, and black tortoise. This made him extremely sure that each group of constellations also had a certain image and a corresponding name. It's a pity that he can't see it now. The Array Immortal also said that this is one of the most powerful laws in the immortal realm. Perhaps I can only comprehend it when I reach the immortal realm. Zuyun retracted his gaze and sighed slightly. Then, he rushed to the lake. There, it has become the center of the universe. But before reaching the lake, Zuyun saw the huge ancestral tree, towering into the sky. From a distance, it looked like a pillar supporting the sky, about to break through the night sky. What surprised him even more was the endless vitality emitted by the ancestral tree. These vitality forces are different from Wood's spiritual power. Mu said he was born, but the power of life was purer than the Wood spirit power he transformed. Zuyun was speechless. If he had known this, he would have used the Dao glass mirror to absorb the fairy light after successfully overcoming the tribulation period when he was in the outer world at that time. Why are you taking Yayuan away? Zuyun suddenly felt a hint of regret in his heart. However, he quickly let it go. His mind has long been open-minded. If you forget about the past, your path to immortality will not be smooth. With a chuckle, Zuyun quickly walked up and stood on the short slope here. I saw a mountain range stretching out of thin air beside the ancestral tree. The end is as far as the eye can see. Looking in the distance, there is even more snow on the top of the towering mountains. Zuyun knew that this was the transformation of Muling's sacred mountain. Originally it was just a small hill, but I didn't expect it to change so much now. Xianguang, if you have a chance in the future, you should try it, but, does this count as stealing someone else's fairy light? Zuyun scratched his head, secretly feeling that something was wrong. However, if there is any strong enemy in front of him in the future, he will absorb his immortal light no matter what. He is an enemy anyway, so he has no psychological burden at all for benefiting himself at the expense of others. Withdrawing his gaze, Zuyun looked at the spiritual lake and inadvertently fell into deep thought. He remembered that this spiritual lake also changed at that time. However, I can't remember exactly when it happened. It rained heavily in the universe, and then the rainwater gathered in this low-lying place, forming this lake. The ancestral tree and the holy mountain have long been the world tree and the world mountain. Then let's call this lake the world lake. Zuyun smiled and cast his gaze to the distance of the lake. Like Hualong Pond, there is a giant dragon floating on the edge of the lake. It's the real dragon. I originally asked you to suffer, but unexpectedly, you came here to enjoy it. Zuyun used the divine eye technique, and seeing the exact same expression as Xiaohong's in Hualong Pond, Zuyun logically should be angry. But he couldn't get angry at all, he just muttered to himself and looked away. 3 dogs, Little Brown and Little Gray. As well as those puppet monsters that have already reached the realm of the Demon King. They have all changed. The 3 dogs transformed into their true form, but their size was larger than before. The same goes for the 2 horses, Little Brown and Little Gray. Could it be that, the 3 dogs turned into fairy dogs, and Little Brown and Little Gray turned into fairy horses? Zuyun touched his chin, thought for a moment, and decided to go to the totem pole to have a look. Until he stood in front of the totem pole, he had not thought about why the Dragon Demon Emperor's immortal light was finally attracted by him. Zuyun didn't know that he used the Thunder Spirit Pearl to absorb the power of the Dragon Demon Emperor's thunder, which was equivalent to completely destroying the heavenly tribulation. According to the will of heaven, the tribulation thunder must be completely struck, and then disperse naturally, and the tribulation will be considered completed. But within the scope of the thunder tribulation, there are no living beings, which means that the tribulation has failed, and naturally there will be no fairy light. But when the power of the final thunder tribulation dissipated, there was still Zuyun alone, and the way of heaven was equivalent to acquiescing that Zuyun had successfully overcome the tribulation. In fact, if Zuyun had not run away at that time and allowed the immortal light to shine on him, even if Zuyun was only in the stage of becoming a god, he would have become a real immortal after being baptized. Call it a true fairy. In fact, if you pass by the Immortal Ascension platform, you will directly become a true immortal. But this true immortal, placed in the fairy world, is also the lowest existence. What Zuyun is worried about is that his foundation and state of mind are not enough. Even if he becomes a true immortal, he is afraid that he will not be able to move forward in the immortal world. That's why I ran away from the fairy light. It was also through such a mistake that the Dewu glazed mirror absorbed the fairy light, causing changes. Fortunately, this change has brought endless benefits to Zuyun. After recovering his thoughts, Zuyun looked at the totem pole in front of him, which was still so dim. But for some unknown reason, Zuyun used the divine eye technique. What he saw was a scene that shocked him extremely. I saw that the demon head statues on every totem pole seemed to be alive. The pillar head is separated from the pillar body, but it is a complete body. It wasn't until the phantoms of 12 monster beasts of the same size knelt in front of Zuyun that he was frightened and came back to his senses. But the next moment, the phantoms of these monster beasts shouted in unison, making Zuyun completely stunned on the spot. The inheritance has arrived, and the destiny is about to begin. All living things in this world. There is a way, a law, a law. There is a universe, there are trees and mountains. One flower, one world, one leaf, one Bodhi. Boom. The world of the universe is shaking.